Hi everyone. So Samsung recently launched A52 and A72 worldwide, and after one day it was available to purchase in India, which is usually not the case. But you can only get the 4G version in India. There is no 5G version of A52 like other countries. So today I'm going to talk about the A52, but before that I want to address A72 as well. So this year the difference between A72 and A52 is not that much because last year at least the processor were different. So in A72 you get a little bigger screen, 500 mAh battery, 3x optical zoom and 25 watt charger in the box. Yes, you can only get 15 watt charger in the A52, but this phone also supports 25 watt charging. So I think A72 is a little bit overpriced because you get the same processor, unlike last year where A71 and A51 had different processors. So if you're planning to buy A72, I would still suggest go for A52. So you can get a 6GB and 8GB RAM version with 128GB storage. But if you want 256GB storage, you can get A72. Let's talk about the build first. I know like every one of you, even I felt the phone looked premium whenever we saw the leak and the unboxing that came early. But when I held this device, it felt cheap. We have used plastic phones in the past. Even Samsung released S21 with a plastic back like S20 FE, and I'm using Pixel 4a that also has plastic back. But when I held this phone, it actually felt cheap. I also compared it with Samsung M31s, which my father is using right now, and it had plastic back, so Samsung removed the plastic part completely and just using the plastic phone. So this phone somehow feels like there's a gap between the back panel and the battery, like we used to have with the previous phones when the battery were removable. So when I use this phone, I don't get that premium feeling out of this phone. I'm not saying this phone looks bad. I mean, it actually looks great. I like the matte finish on the back, which is also present on Pixel 4a, but somehow Pixel 4a does not attract as many fingerprints or dust like this back. So I wish Samsung has provided that plastic back from S21 or S20 FE, and so it would have felt premium, but right now it does not feel premium at all. So if you want to use this phone without a case, I think you should go and check in the store before purchasing. That's the only complaint I have with this phone. Otherwise, the phone looks great. On the front, it has Gorilla Glass 5. The weight distribution is nice. I think it feels light even though it's 190 grams. And on the front, there's a very small punch hole, but there's a silver line for some reason, and it reflects a little bit when you watch something. Samsung is taking on the competition with the inclusion of IP67, which is very rare to find in this price range. So I think that can be a great factor for a lot of people to buy this phone. My experience with the display was opposite of the build quality. It is amazing for the price. Samsung is the king of displays and they do not even cut corners in their mid-range devices as well. I did not feel anything less when coming from S21 Plus, so I think the display is really good. It's definitely better than my Pixel 4a. The colors are vibrant and it's a very bright display, so outdoor visibility is not a problem. It's a 6.5-inch Full HD Plus Super AMOLED display, and this year Samsung also updated the refresh rate to 90Hz. Although I have mixed feelings about this 90Hz refresh rate, I'm not saying it's not smooth. I didn't even see any stutter or frame drops. But the problem is somehow I think the skin is really heavy for this phone. So there are some transitions which feel slow. So whenever I pull the notification panel down, you can see there's a delay between them. And sometimes I try to open the Google panel, it restarts the app and it feels like it takes time to open that application as well. I also compared it with OnePlus 70 and I think the refresh rate is almost similar, the smoothness is also similar, but the problem is app opening time is slow and that makes that phone a little bit slow. But I'll talk about the UI and performance in later part, but other than that the display is really good. There's also wideband L1 support, which is usually common in every mid-range devices nowadays, and you can also watch Full HD on Netflix and Prime Video. The only problem is it does not support HDR in Netflix. Media experience isn't only dependent upon display, the sound has to be great as well. So they have stereo speaker this time and sound is amazing. Listen to this. I found these speakers to be loud and clear. They also have Dolby Atmos support, so I think for media consumption it's a great device. I did not check the sound quality from 3.5mm jack with any high-end headphones, so I'm sorry for that, but otherwise the output on a normal headphones were really good. There's one thing that is very disappointing and that is the haptic motor. I don't think it's good at all. On the lower end it's very high, I cannot even reduce it. And so I think for the price it's really bad. It should have been better. Samsung did not even enable the haptics on their keyboard when you set up the device, so I think that's really strange as well. If I talk about performance, A52 and A72 get 720G, and which is kind of similar to 730G with slightly overclocked CPU. And I think the performance is a mixed bag. It's not the problem with 720G, I think the One UI is not optimized for that processor. I do think it's take a little bit time while opening apps, and I do not blame the processor itself. I think One UI is really heavy for that. The good thing is Samsung managed to make it usable. It's not laggy, but it's not snappy as well. I think Snapdragon 750G would have been a little better, but sadly we cannot use that as it's not launched in India. But these are very early impressions, so I'm waiting for the update so that Samsung can optimize this processor for One UI. I think gaming is a kind of similar story, so I did play Call of Duty for half an hour. The phone does not get warm, but I think there are some frame drops, so I wouldn't recommend this phone as for gamer. I think Dimensity chipsets are a little better than these Snapdragon 720G. Camera is something that impressed me a lot. Inclusion of the OIS in this price range is a great step from Samsung. I also like the images coming from M31s or M51, but with OIS, Samsung has taken this to the next level. I will make a dedicated camera comparison between my Pixel 4a and this A52, so stay tuned for that, but my initial impression with this camera is really good. So I think if they have included that 3x optical zoom, it would have been great, but I think there would not be a difference between A72 and A52 then. So for the price, I think it's okay. You can also record 4K 30 frames per second from the front and the rear camera itself, and you can also record 1080p up to 60 frames per second. Here is an example. I'm recording from the front camera, so I'm recording in 4K 30 frames per second. That's what I usually choose. So there's a lot of ambient sound. And you can say hi to Kiki. Kiki, say hi. So this is the rear 4K 30 frames per second. I know there's a lot of sound, but now I'm walking so you can see the stabilization. I hope the OIS is working perfectly fine. I really like the colors. I'm not sure whether it's the screen or the camera itself, but the colors look really nice on the screen at least. Kiki, hi once again. This year Samsung has brought full One UI 3.1 to A series, which is not even available on S10 series yet. I mean, it's a full-fledged One UI with Bixby routines. You get Samsung Pay with NFC because MST is not available on higher-end version as well. There's also option for link to Windows, secure folder, and there's a full Knox security. Samsung is also promising 3 years of software update and 4 years of security patches, which already makes this phone much better than Xiaomi and Realme. Unlike Realme, the phone comes with Android 11 out of the box, and unlike Xiaomi, there are no bloatware or very less bloatware, and there's no cheap applications. I mean, there's not even Discover option, which you can find on Samsung M31s on the lower end version. So I think the UI experience has been really good. There are no ads, no unnecessary notification, and yes, I logged into Samsung account as well. I know One UI is heavy, but I think it's still much better than this Realme UI, Mi UI, and the Color OS. It's not the snappiest phone in this price range, but this phone is not going to frustrate you like others. In terms of biometrics, like other A series phone, you get the in-display fingerprint sensor, which I think has improved a lot. It's still slow because of the animation, but I think the accuracy has been improved a lot from the last generation. You also have the face recognition system, which is slow. I think it's also slow on the higher end version as well, so not complaining here. You get 4500 mAh battery this year, which is 500 mAh extra from last year, and my initial impressions are positive. I have only charged this phone once, but it's still learning my usage pattern, so I cannot comment on that right away. But as of now, I think it lasted me 2 days, so I'm happy with it, but I'm going to use it a little bit more. In terms of storage, like you get UFS 2.1 and a hybrid SIM slot, which you can expand the storage. There is no 5G, and I tried to find the carrier aggregation as well after installing some application as well, but I couldn't find it, so I cannot confirm it yet right now. I do not care about the 5G, but if you do, this is not the phone for you. So my final thoughts are, this phone is good for the price. If it had 750G, it would have killed the competition, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I didn't face any major issue or there was any problem with it, so I can easily replace my primary phone with it, so that's not an issue. But it was not a very amazing experience, so it was just an okay experience for the price. I'm still going to post my review after using this phone for a while, and I'll wait for some updates as well. If you have any question, you can ask that in the comment box. My name is Rohit. I'll see you in the next one. Till then.